Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert Muganga, teacher of history and geography in Muhanga district. As you know, we are in pandemic period. We stay home. Everything is done at home. That's why students also are required to revise their lessons at home. So I focus mainly on senior 3 students, and I decided to share with them this PowerPoint explained in history so that they may help them in preparing for national exam. Let's start with the French Revolution as unity that starts this channel. Today's lesson analyze 1789 French Revolution. Today we'll focus mainly on the causes of French Revolution. What is revolution? What is French Revolution? What are the causes of French Revolution? Let's start analyzing this short video and we'll come back explaining it.
At the height of the 18th century, the most glorious kingdom in Europe would face a mighty foe, the power of its own people. One man would rise to inspire the nation, to cast aside a reluctant king and a hated queen, and a new republic would be born in blood, the blood of the French Revolution.
As you can see in this short video, I've seen some turmoil, some strikes where people are struggling with their fellow people, and you can see the death of some people. So today we are going to analyze the causes of this revolution. Let's start analyzing on this picture. If you see this picture, there is an ordinary people oppressed by two people in his back. This ordinary people stands for peasants or ordinary people in French society, and these two people stands for king and queen. As you can see, this ordinary people was extremely oppressed, exploited. Now, what is revolution? As you know, revolution is a change that took place in society within a political, economic, and social aspect. And this change must be fundamental. It's a fundamental change. It is a transformation. And this transformation removes something and install new one. There is dismantling something and installing new one. French Revolution was a major transformation that took place in France from 1789 to 1799. In France, they dismantled despotic rule of Louis XVI, as we are going to discuss below, and installing social order that based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. Why liberty, equality, and fraternity? It is because in French society there was inequality. And this revolution had far-reaching effect, but today we are going to focus on the causes. What are the causes of this revolution? Revolution mainly done by the peasants. Causes of French Revolution. Cause number one, unfair political system of ancient regime. What is ancient regime? Ancient regime was a leadership system that used in France, especially in 19th century. When we say unfair, unfair is something that is not real, that is not in a right way. It is something that is in a bad manner. Unfair political system is to mean that there was bad leadership. Bad leadership used by despotic rule, despotic kings who used dictatorship. If we say dictatorship, people were ruled without any freedom. Nepotism is a way of selecting your fellow readers basing on your family, selecting your fellow reader after rotating about your family. For instance, you may find another fellow reader from your close family, your little brother, your sister become your minister, things like this. Abuse of human rights in French society, where some people were imprisoned without trial. Imagine, huh? Imprisoning someone without trial using what we call arrest warrant. This is something unusual. This annoyed citizens and decide to fight for their freedom. Number next, social class struggle. This point can also be called social class inequality. Let's say that in France there were three classes, and we can say also three estates, or three classes, and this class were treated inequally, were inequally treated. The class number one or estate number one is clergy. Clergy are those great readers of church, including nuns, including priests, including all those great leaders of the church. And remember, in France, the great church was Catholic Church. This clergy enjoyed many things. They owned at least 6% of land of the country were in the hands of clergy. And they received tithe. Tithe. Tithe is 1 out of 10 of all property of this citizen must be provided to the clergy to support church and the priests. But also remember that church in this time had enough power, had strong power, had confusing power. It had power in politics. That's why clergy comes as number one. Estate number two is noble. Estate is like class. Nobles were those people from royal family, from the family of king. Those are called nobles. Nobles and clergy, clergy, first estate, noble, second estate, these were categorized into privileged group. They were overprivileged. How? They owned large land. For instance, clergy owned 6% of the land of France in that time, while nobles owned 20% of land in that period. They didn't pay taxes. They were exempted from paying taxes. They had posts in government, especially high-paying posts in government. These nobles and clergy could be promoted in army, irrespective their performance, irrespective their cowardness. They must be promoted because they are from clergy and nobles. On the other hand, there were other groups that were extremely oppressed. This group is called peasants. And this peasants is the third estate or third class. Peasants and middle class. Peasants can be also called ordinary people or poor people in the country. But middle class are those middle class peoples like merchants, teachers, royals, but they had no freedom in the country. As you can see, they numbered up 23 million out of 25, but they had no freedom. They paid all taxes, they were forced in forced labor, they could not gain post in government, no promotion in army, they could be imprisoned without trial, they had the smallest land that pushed them to live as tenants. How? So, what is the meaning of this inequality? Why inequality in the country of the same citizen? This annoyed peasant. This pushed peasants to fight for their freedom. They need equality among citizens. As you can see, estate number one is clergy, number two is nobility, and the last one is peasants and middle class. And this is what we have been explaining. Another cause of French Revolution is the role of French philosophers. Who are philosophers? Philosophers are also called great thinkers. Those who invented things that is used nowadays. These philosophers are the one who made what we call era of enlightenment. They invented, they discovered many things that is used today. The love of wisdom is what we call philosophy. So this invented things in politics that exposed the wrongs of French society. They showed society how their reader are wrongdoing, are doing bad things to the citizen, are oppressing citizen, especially peasant. So this inspired peasant to fight for their freedom. Those philosophers are like Montesquieu, Voltaire, Rousseau, John Locke, among others. Number next, unfair land ownership. This has been explained above. Nobles and clergy and Catholic Church in general owned the largest land, while peasants, all third estate, lived as tenants. Why? Someone could own the largest land, mountains and mountains of soil, while others remain landless. Why? So this annoyed them and start fighting. Unfair taxation system. Unfair taxation system is also explained in a summary. Poor peasants were the one forced to pay taxes. Tax like surtax, property tax, road taxes, among others. While rich peasants, right? No, sorry. While rich nobles and clergy were exempted from paying taxes. Nobles and clergy could not pay tax, while they were the one rich who were rich in the country. Poor peasants were forced to pay. How? How could they pay while they didn't even find what to eat? Finding food was a problem, but they were forced to pay. And giving a tithe to the church is done by force. This forced peasants to rise against this law. The bankrupts of the throne is another point. Explanation. What is bankrupts? Bankrupts is like an empty case. Empty case. Empty case of the state. They had no money at all. This emptiness of the state case was caused by some point. Number one, this emptiness of case was caused by corruption, where every reader could store government fund to his personal interest. Embezzlement of fund is also another cause, but also they had sponsored 240 million US dollars in American Revolution. This was done by Louis XVI, the King of France. He spent this 240 million in American Revolution as a way of revenging to the Britain due to 7 Years' War. Another cause of this emptiness of the state fund case is Queen Marie Antoinette, who lived in luxury life. All this led to empty case of the state. But this empty case of the state was followed by misery, starvation, and unemployment in the country, hence revolution. Dismissal of financial reformer. Who were financial reformer? Here we have Turgot and Necker. These Turgot and Necker are the economic reformers who advised king to tax nobles and clergy as a way of solving economic or financial crisis in the country, in the kingdom. But remember, nobles and clergy were exempted before. They could not pay tax. And this economic reformer advised king to force those nobles and clergy to pay tax. This immediately after reaching to Marie Antoinette, queen of this kingdom, Marie Antoinette advised king immediately to dismiss Turgot and Necker because they brought bad decision, bad advice to the king. And this annoyed peasants because peasants hoped that this could be the real solution to the problem in the kingdom. Character of Louis XVI. Louis XVI is a special king who was a despotic or dictator. In his kingdom, there was corruption, embezzlement of funds. Not only this, he married an arrogant wife from Austria. Austria was an enemy of France. Why? Remember, in the 7 Years' War, Austria came to help Britain while France was fighting with Britain. So, this immediately made Austria former enemy of France, and this king had a wife from this enemy country. So the French society, French people, especially peasants, disliked this Queen Antoinette because of his country. This king also could be asleep or hunting in a crucial meeting. Really, he is a coward. How could you sleep in a crucial meeting? He also decided to spend a lot of money, much money, in American Revolution. This made him unpopular, hence revolution. As you can see, this is a picture of Louis XVI. This picture is uploaded from internet. Another point is the influence of Queen Marie Antoinette. She was from Austria, as I have been explaining, the former enemy. This is the cause number one that led to French Revolution. On this point, she is from the former enemy of France country, Austria, because of 7 Years War. She lived in luxury life while people were starving. People were in starvation. She bought 4 pairs of shoes per week. Imagine 4 pairs of shoes. I repeat it, 4 pairs of shoes per week. She had 500 servants. 500 servants. To do what? All this contributed to France's financial crisis. Another thing that is crucial, she once arrogantly told the peasants, let them eat cakes if bread is expensive. Let them eat cakes if bread is expensive. It's an arrogant talk. Imagine poor people come to the palace. They claim for the rise of price of bread. Instead of giving a good response to those peasants, this queen arrogantly told them to go and buy gato, uko tuyita mu kinyarwanda, instead of buying bread, umugati. This is an she lived in luxury while people were in starvation, were in misery. They were in famine. So all this annoyed people, hence revolution. This is the picture of Marie Antoinette. As you can see on her hair, you can see his dress. She was really arrogant. Influence of England. By 1750, Britain had a modernized leadership. They had freedom of people. They had developed developed industrial revolution. So it was an exemplary country in that period. So French people, French society decided to take an example from Britain and also live in freedom as Britain people did. Effect of American Revolution. American Revolution, remember in senior 2 I mean, France spent 240 million US dollars in American Revolution as a way of revenging to Britain. But this led to French financial crisis. Not only this amount of money, French also sent their soldiers headed by General Marquis de Lafayette, who was commander in America but from France. He was a commander of French troop in American Revolution. But when he came back, he took also the commanding role in French Revolution because they came back with inspiration. They come to fight for freedom as they have fought it in America. They have an inspirational syllable called, if success could be obtained by the Americans, it could be obtained by French as well. Very interesting. Natural calamities. In France, during that period of 18th century, let's start from 1786. France signed free trade with Britain. And remember, Britain was developed in industry compared to France. So this, after signing this agreement, France lost market for its product, hence poverty, and people decide to revolt. Another calamity is 1788, where France experienced poor harvest, death of animals, almost Animals in France at that time they died due to disease or pest and disease. In 1789, there were severe winter in Europe. Severe winter, all coldness, the highest coldness in Europe that led to freezing of river. If we say freezing of river is while instead of being liquid, the river become in solid ice or freeze of water. So if the freezing of river come, there is no fishing, there is no water transport, hence unemployment. All this annoyed people of France, hence revolution. The last causes of French Revolution, as I have prepared, is the calling of General Estate Meeting on May 5th, 1789. What is this General Estate Meeting? Remember, from the beginning in France, we explained that France had three estates. Estate is like crosses. This estate were now invited by the King Louis XVI to come on the same table and discuss the solution to the economic crisis in the country in this period. Every estate was represented. Large estate was represented by 308, nobles 295, peasants 621 peasants. So there are three estates but represented on this number, as you can see. Then they come to discuss the solution of the meeting, and in the meeting some economist reformers give them an idea that everyone in the country, especially nobles and the clergy, could pay taxes. In this discussion, they decided to vote on the decision. There were two kinds of vote in France. They could vote by estate. If we say voting by estate, this means that every estate could send one representative to vote. One member from clergy, one member from noble, and one member from peasants. And one vote could represent all estate. If they use this system, voting by estate, peasants would be defeated, would be overruled. Then peasants also claimed by saying that every representative must vote. And as you can see in this number, nobles and clergy would vote that they didn't need to pay tax, while peasants would vote that everyone must pay tax. 295 plus 308 would be 603. That would be small number compared to peasants. So now there is a misunderstanding in meeting on how to vote. This led to inevitable situation, and the king failed to solve the situation, to calm the situation. Then third class decided to declare himself as National Assembly. And when the king asked them to go out of the hall, they refused and said, now we are National Assembly. And this marked the beginning or the starting point of French Revolution. This is a picture of French Revolution, especially estate meeting in this period of 5th May 1789. Before ending, let me remind you some causes of French Revolution. We discussed many causes of French Revolution like unfair political systems, uh, social class inequality, natural calamities, effect of American Revolution, influence of Louis XVI, influence of Marie Antoinette, all those were the causes of French Revolution. So I hope that there is something new that comes in your mind, and I promise you to do as well as possible so that you may be enriched in history. Don't forget to subscribe on this channel so that you will find the effect of American Revolution. Thank you very much.